let's go Clemson, Texas. Game's in Austin. Texas is an 11-point favorite in this game. Over under 51.5. This game's TNT. 4 p.m. kickoff. Dylan,
Oh my gosh.
where are we going?
Inside college football with Charles Barkley and Shaq.
We need it. We need it so bad.
That's where this Dabo got, man. I just don't know.
Oh, K. Klubnik, he is terrible.
This one, 11-point favorites for Texas.
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points. And what I can't get over with Texas is both of their tests they've failed, and they were both Georgia. One was a backup quarterback for half of football. And I understand Clemson's resume to this point isn't very impressive. They don't have they have some not great losses on that record. But I think at some point we have to give credence to coaching. We have to give credence to have these teams been here before. And you look at Dabo Swinney, 12-8 in bowl games, 6-4 all time in the college football playoff, and Sark's 0-1, 2-4 in bowls. The only problem here, I want to take Clemson. I've taken Clemson. Statistically, Clemson's strengths, EPA per rush, they're 14th in the nation, 0.14 EPA per rush. Great on late downs, 15th in the nation. But Texas defensively does those things just as well as Clemson does them offensively. So it's really tough to find any ground here. Ultimately, I'm going to go with the coach. Dabo is a dork. He does some weird things. He's goofy. The way he runs down that little hill just enamors me. It's wild. I'm going to go Clemson here to keep it close. I'm actually going to go Clemson to win. I think they beat Texas.
Clemson money line.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they win. I think they win. And
Dylan, I just gambled my life that Clemson wouldn't win this tournament, and now all of a sudden you want to bet against me?
Well.
Oh, anti-Connor rhetoric.
Yeah.
No, I'm not anti-Connor.
All of a sudden, I risked my life on Clemson not winning this thing, and all it's Clemson money line left and right.
I'm not scared. Listen, it's a coaching thing. That's what it comes down to. I'm not saying Sark's a bad coach, but at some point it boils down to, have you been here before? And Texas has blown the SEC game. They blew their game against Georgia, that's their only two tests. They blew.
Have you been here before? Do you know how many guys Texas returned from their college football playoff appearance last year? Clemson hasn't made this thing since 2020. You talk about people not being here before. There's no player on Clemson's roster that's been there.
Do you want players on your roster that have lost though in the first round?
I think that
you want players who haven't been
on a big stage.
It sounds like
haven't been there on the road.
Okay, all the guys that lost in the playoffs last year are back. We're going to get it this year.
If you're going to take Clemson money line, what's the path in this game? Actually,
dogfight.
I'll tell you,
they're going to have success running the ball. That's probably it.
I'll tell you what it is. The path for Clemson, and even though I don't think they're going to win, the path is turnovers. Clemson was second in the NCAA in turnover margin. They were plus 16 in college football turnover margin. Ewers just had 2 picks versus Georgia. Clemson wants to win. They forced 2 turnovers.
Question.
Yes, Karter from the Cartercast.
Yeah, Karter from the Cartercast here. Is the turnover margin because they played ball sack teams like Wake Forest, Stanford,
you stole my thunder, Karter.
Virginia, the Citadel, Appalachian State? I think that's where they got all their turnovers from.
Yep, I would agree with that point, and I was going to hit on that in my preview. I agree with that point, but that is the path for them is Texas turnovers and red zone mistakes and stuff like that. If it's just a normal game, pretty clean game, I don't think there's a path for Clemson.
No, and I think that's the key here with Clemson, Texas in this spot. I don't feel comfortable taking Texas at all in the spread if Quinn Ewers is playing, because I think the turnovers can be a real problem. But also, Sark's play calling when the game gets tight gets way, way too cute. That was the problem against Washington in the playoff game last year. All you had to do on that Washington team last year was run the effing ball. Just run it down their throats. Michigan easily won that national title game because they just kept running the ball. Sark would do these trick plays, these end arounds, and all this stuff. Just run it straight down the middle, man. Don't overthink it. And Sark got way too cute in that Georgia game. Anybody who watched the SEC title game came away from Texas is the better team. They just choked. They couldn't get it done when it mattered most. And Dylan, I think why I sneaky agree with you with the coaching problem there. I don't think you can take Texas with the spread here. But in no way am I taking Clemson to win this game outright, because this game's in Austin, and this Texas defense is so legit. And you look at Clemson this year, who are the the only defenses they've played with a pulse this year. It's South
Georgia.
Carolina and it's Georgia. And what happened in those games? They scored a combined what?
17 points?
17
20?
points.
Yeah, something like that. They had 3 against Georgia. That's my point. That's number one, actually, real quick on the turnover point for Clemson. I think it is feasible to talk about that as a real path for them because Ewers, is he that much better than Hank Bachmeier or Anthony Calandria?
Yeah.
We're talking ball here.
I wish I
on a
would have
real
held
note-
on to that take. Oh,
Yeah, Dylan, you screwed yourself there. On a real note, I know it was week 1. I know it was 3 months ago. If you go back to that Georgia game, Clemson gave up over 7.5 yards of play. Even though Texas lost both the games to Georgia, they only gave up 4 in the first matchup and then 4.1 yards per play in the second matchup. Especially in the SEC title game, they were the better team. They stifled Georgia's offense much of that game. And then the Texas defense, I think, is just worlds ahead of Clemson's defense. I really do.
And we're also other thing is, look, you can make this point about the game too and the kicking and whatnot, but if Auburn hits an easy kick, we're talking about Texas with a first round bye and the 2 overall seed. This is Georgia versus Clemson in this spot. Actually, no, probably than Penn State.
I'm hearing a lot of talk about this Texas team that outplayed Georgia and then lost it late because of stupid mistakes, and we're not worried about that at all. The 2 times they had a test, they blew it when they outplayed their opponent.
But going forward, I'm worried about it, but I'm not worried about it against this Clemson team.
That's the same thing because Clemson is not Georgia. Clemson is not another SEC, a big SEC school like that. I'm not even being Mr. SEC here. I'm an ACC guy, but
we know.
Clemson's a different team than some of these top tier SEC teams. And Clemson's rush D, they were 14th in the ACC. You don't know how bad the ACC is? Clemson's rush D with 14th in ACC conference play. Last 3 games, Texas has averaged 174 yards on the ground per game. Clemson has averaged 87 yards per game on the ground, and that includes the Citadel, where they ran for 300 yards. That Clemson run game has been non-existent the last few weeks, and I think Texas's front 7 is going to get after Klubnik. They're number 1 in the NCAA versus the pass, with only 143 yards allowed. And if you really, really want to get into it, Clemson has no weapons on the outside. Do you want to take any pressure off Cade Klubnik? Who's going to do it? Their tight end, Briningstool, that's their best weapon right there. There's not a wide receiver on the outside that makes a difference. I think we're going to see a lot of Quintravion Wisener on the ground for Texas. I don't think Clemson's going to be able to stop it. I think it's a low-scoring game. I like Texas 27-10.
And also, Dylan, are you worried about – we talk about Texas and Quinn Ewers making these mistakes, but Cade Klubnik in these big games has constantly made these mistakes and thrown bad interceptions.
He was good against SMU. I'll give him that. 264 yards, 4 scores. He was fine. Texas's defense up here, SMU's defense down here.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I think the coaching thing is huge. Dabo's been here before. I don't care that Texas has the returning players from a playoff loss to Washington, which we all know last year's Washington team was. You could have made a serious case. Like Alabama was a better team than Washington was last year. And yeah, no, I'm not worried about that. I think Clemson wins.
Clemson's going to be one-dimensional, Dylan. So you're telling me you trust Cade Klubnik to take over this game and throw the ball 35, 40 times? Because that run game will not be there versus Texas.
Phil Maffa's not getting anything in this game.
Texas isn't going to be one-dimensional. Have you not watched Quinn Ewers the last 4 weeks? Like it's night and day from what it was earlier this season.
I think they will have success on the ground, which therefore leads Quinn Ewers to have to do less. I feel like there's going to be less pressure on him to make big throws in this game. They're going to lean heavy on the backs.
We haven't even talked about this point. Why is Quinn Ewers playing? How is he not benched yet?
Texas fans seem to want him to play.
This is crazy. Am I seeing something that I feel like I'm taking crazy pills? How can you keep
think in
this
the
going?
playoffs, I don't think you can just go Arch, though.
Yeah, this can't be his first. Oh, we're going to start Arch all of a sudden in a playoff
we saw
game.
it with that Georgia game where they gave him a shot, and it wasn't awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, he just ran the ball.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, and also when you come in for a play like that, when you bring in a quarterback like that, they probably know you're doing a quarterback run in some way or some kind of RPO. So,
but
either way,
that's not. That wasn't when Quinn got injured. That wasn't necessarily like it's different than bringing in Alex Orji for a random package.
Are you talking about the first Texas
game? Yes, first game. First game.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the SEC title game. Yeah, I think that's fair, but I also think he was put in an unfair spot because, you didn't have all week to prep and whatnot. But I don't know, man. Quinn Ewers can't. Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about that when we do the bracket.
How do you guys feel about the under 51.5?
I like it.
Okay.
I'd go under rather than over.
I would too.
I don't like it.
Yeah, of
Carter.
I'm sure that makes Dylan love it because he's anti-Connor and anti-Carter. So
Yep. I hate both you guys.
Yep.